Hello friends, today we'll be discussing on one of the important areas as far as career transition is concerned, or maybe starting a new career is concerned. We'll be discussing on resume making. When we speak of resume making, there are lots of things that are generically pop up as far as different terminologies are concerned, and those are resume, CV, curriculum vitae, or biodata. Now, when we speak of all these things, first we really need to understand what's the difference between these, a resume, a CV, or a biodata. Now, if you really get into these things, you will understand that these days these are more commonly being used synonymously, but just as a point of demarcation or differentiation, resume generally as a word is used normally for who start a career after their education. CV or curriculum vitae more often is used for experienced people who are making a career transition, maybe in the same functional domain or maybe in a cross-functional domain. And biodata is, as the name suggests, has got to do more with biological data. So it's more about what statistics that are more commonly used, maybe height, weight, sex, gender, and stuff like that. But these days, these are more interchangeably used. So for our discussion, we will be using the word resume, although it covers all. So this session, we will try to address how to make real effective resumes. We all know in this competitive world, it's very difficult to showcase ourselves, to present ourselves in the best of our abilities, because when we are applying for a job, maybe for a transition or for a new job, it has to be kept in mind that a lot of people post their application to your organization. So the biggest challenge generally is, how do you showcase ourselves that we are different? We are really have different skill sets, something that we can contribute. So this workshop, one thing you could be assured of is that you will get real substance about it. A lot of time people make resume just for the sake of it, just to pass on information or data. But let's put it this way, when we really make effective resume, there is a lot of chance that you're called for an interview. So when you're looking at this workshop, we are looking up from a real result oriented angle, and this workshop is really made from a lot of research based on successful resumes, people who have showcased their abilities, their accomplishments in a very much better way. Okay, the objective of this session is 1. To provide the skills and tools for creating and preparing your own resume. When I say skills and tools, it means 1, the internal skills and the external tools. When we say internal skills, about what kind of orientation the resume needs to have, what kind of things it needs to showcase, depict, so that the employer or the prospective employer gets to know us well. Well, first we start with the good news and the bad news. Now let friends understand that with an extra effort, you could create a resume which make you stand out as a superior candidate for a job you are seeking. And you know, in this competitive world, there are lots of job applicants vis-a-vis the actual positions. In India, normally it works out for, suppose we have a 10 vacancies, at least 3,000 to 5,000 job application comes up. And calling for an interview from there on completely is decided about what kind of resume you are sending out. And the good news definitely is, if you really care about what you are sending out, then definitely you can make a good resume. So you must be asking what the bad news is. The bad news is that more often than not, your present resume is probably more inadequate than you now realize. Now, probably is the word I use. When I say probably, it means more often than not, we have seen that people who send the resumes just a version showing their facts, figures, and maybe a background about their education. But let us in this workshop try to understand how to really make effective resumes. Now let's understand what's the number one purpose of a resume. The number one purpose of a resume is to win an interview. It's very clear, crystal clear, to win an interview. It has to be clearly understood that it's an advertisement, nothing more, nothing less. For example, if you see a lot of commercials being put up across, you see, if you buy this product, you will get these specific direct benefits. That's how you put across. It's absolutely an advertisement, advertising you for the designed or for the proposed position. So the number one purpose of any resume is to win and get through an interview and get employment. There are other possible purposes as well of a resume. One, it could be to pass employer screening process as well. For example, a lot of companies, what they do is they have minimum eligibility criteria, maybe about marks, maybe about experience, maybe about certain functional domains. So it could be to pass the screening process or to provide contact information. It could be also about certain information about where are you from, or where have you educated from. So these kind of contact information. Or it could be to establish you as a professional person with high standards. So what kind of appeal you are giving to the employer from your resume also could be the possible reasons to have a resume. We should first also need to understand, if this is the purpose, we also need to understand what resume is not. Now, there is a lot of myth revolving this, and that's why we are addressing this. It has to be clearly understood that it's not a history of your past, because a lot of people consider resume as just a history of your past. It's not about that. It's not a personal statement. It's not about your identity. It's not about what you are. Neither it's not about your self-expression. It's not about you as an individual. It has to be clearly understood. This is not resume is all about. The agenda. This is what we would be covering in the entire session. Number one, what is a resume? What different types of resumes are there to address different kind of employment requirements? What should you include on a resume? What should and also what you should not include on a resume? What are your skills and attributes that matches the employer's requirement? Who are your references? So we will get through this agenda one by one and also link it up with what are the critical attributes relevant to discussion from this perspective.